Hi there, great to see you. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you back to the channel here at Weir Yard. And today we're looking at the Rapido Wagons Roundup. There's been a lot of new releases from Rapido and the latest three have just arrived here for review. Now, they announced these some time back, and I suppose that with so many new announcements being made and so many updates on some of the new wagons that they're working on, it's easy to forget about all the different things that they're working on. But their new version of the 1907 Railway Clearinghouse open wagon have arrived, and these feature the side door only versions, which were popular both with some of the pre-grouping railway companies right through lasting to BR ownership and with some private owner use as well. We've also got, for the first time ever, Caledonian Railway ventilated van. Now, Scotland has always been quite neglected in the ready-to-run market, but of late we've seen quite a few new locomotives making it through, and so it stands to reason, being sensible, we need something to run behind them. Rapido stepped up to this with a continuation of their investigation of pre-grouping rolling stock, bringing some of these quite eclectic examples to the ready-to-run market, and the Caledonian Railway ventilated van is the newest one of these. They actually survived reasonably well in preservation, probably because they were incredibly well built, well designed. They gave good service not just with the Caledonian Railway, the LMS and British Railways, but a large number went on to work with a number of familiar names such as the NCB, the Port of London Authority and Cadbury's too, and all of these are liveries that are being offered by Rapido trains. The final of the trio is the Blue Spot Fish Van. Now you might be thinking, I'm sure we've already had one of those. Well, as always, there's always a few different diagrams that British Railways built wagons to. Over time, they learnt from experience and tweaked and changed things. So what we're getting from Rapido is the diagram 1/801, which is ever so slightly but noticeably different from the examples that we've had from other companies. That means that this is another plug to the gaps in the ready-to-run offerings that are out there and will complement rather than compete with those on offer from other companies. And Rapido are offering these in every single version of their existence, from the all-white Blue Spot fish vans through ice blue and into their post-fish traffic with newspapers and parcels, and then on to being barrier wagons and departmental vans for a whole host of different purposes. And again, with numerous examples surviving into preservation, there really is room for any of these in your wagon fleet. But before we get into this full look at the Rapido Roundup, please remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you've not already done so. It's a great way to keep up to date and to show your appreciation. You can also find a link over to Patreon where you can help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see. We've got affiliate links down below taking you to TMC for all versions of the wagons featured today at what we believe to be the best prices. And you can also pick up all of your JK channel merchandise and those all-important Monday Club badges that get you unique in-person buying discounts. And as we always say, support the retailers that support your hobby. But let's get on and see just what Rapido have brought us in this Rapido Roundup. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I think my postman is in danger of saying, Rapido, please, will you just come up for air? It seems hardly a week goes by without new Rapido releases hitting the shops. And this week, it's not one, it's not two, but it's three different releases from Rapido, and they very kindly sent over some samples for us to take a good close look at. So we're going to delve into these. In fact, I'm going to start with my favourites. They have tooled up a complete new tooled blue spot fish fan to diagram 1/801. Now, I've been having a look around and just trying to find the detail differences. The reason for this is that Rapido state that this is the first time that the diagram 1/801 have ever been offered ready to run. But I can't actually find what diagram Hornby 00, later Wren, later Dapol actually produced. But I think everybody has agreed that that model has certainly got value for money from the tooling and definitely is long overdue for a revamp. And it's Rapido who have taken up that mantle. Now, these are available in a number of different liveries, including the original white. We've got an example here. They then later, some of these went on into ice blue. And the reason for this change in livery was because in traffic, the white livery actually got very dirty very quickly and gave a perception that the wagons being filthy on the outside was the inside going to be filthy as well. Clearly they weren't, but there was a worry about public perception on this, so after consultation they changed the livery to ice blue, and this seems to have applied to all refrigerated wagons, so you'll see an awful lot of insulated vans go from the white to the ice blue livery, and that's part of the reason. And I know from having worked in food logistics transportation, especially during winter when wagons get absolutely filthy, one of the most common complaints was, oh, your wagon is filthy. And it's like, well, the outside is, but not the inside. But it's very hard to get over public perception. Now, the two versions that Rapido have sent are catalogue number 957002, and this is in the original Blue Spot Fish Fan livery as number E87836. And then also 957015, and this is in the later departmental livery as number 87905. Now, fish traffic ended, I think, around 1968, 1969, something like that. And these vans went on into various other traffic flows. A lot were used for parcels and newspaper traffic, and also barrier vans and such like as well. So actually a lot of these vans did go on into a lot of other useful work, could be seen up and down the network, particularly in the 1970s. I believe the last revenue use for one of these, presumably on paper traffic, was in 1981, although departmental examples did persist, and a number have survived into preservation. Now, these vans, of course, were a development of the design that had originally been built by the LNER. Their original ones were on a 9-foot wheelbase, so a bit rough running at speed. So the idea with these, with a longer wheelbase, was that these could be attached to passenger express trains, and a lot of them actually had through steam heating pipes for that purpose as well. The different diagrams, if you're interested, 1/800 seem to have had the plain bearings, whereas the 1/801s seem to have had the roller bearings, and it's the roller bearing examples which have this blue spot, so that it was easier to glance to note that they had bearings that were much less likely to run hot boxes whilst running at fast express speeds of 60 or 75 miles per hour. So now that we've got that potted history out of the way, let's take a look at what Rapido have tooled up. And first up, you can see that we've got an awful lot of these external bracing on the wagon, really quite clean and crisp. These were actually built from plywood that had an aluminium skin over the top of that, the idea being that that would make it a lot easier to keep clean, plywood being a fairly traditional way of building fans at the time. So it gives them this fairly smooth appearance, and they do seem to have lasted quite well, although I suspect with water ingress it's more likely the plywood rotted out of sight, leaving the aluminium skin looking perfectly okay until it was very clear it wasn't. All of the bracing is where it should be, and we've got some quite crisp rivet heads. These do look to be slightly on the large side. However, from experience, when you do make rivets the right size in 00, sometimes they don't look right in model form because you can't see them so easily. So it's certainly a reasonable representation here. What I really do like is we've got these recessed doors. The reason these were recessed is that they sealed and cut out drafts. The fish inside was packed with ice, and then they also used buckets of dry ice to help keep things cool. That's actually solid carbon dioxide. So they have drains in the floor for any meltwater from the ice that the fish was packed in to drain away. Then they also featured a kind of rubber insulation, particularly in the roofs. The whole idea was that it would keep the fish fresh all the way on the express route to particularly places like London's markets. And a lot of these would run between places like Hull and King's Cross, although they did get much further afield, being noted as far afield as Leamington Spa on one occasion that I've read. So they were a very well-travelled vehicle. The buffer heads are sprung loaded. Actually, it's quite a pleasing mechanism that we got in there. It appears to be turned metal heads, all finished in black. Now, these buffers do stick out quite a way, as per the prototype. And underneath we've got the coupling mounted into a NEM pocket, and the mounting point for all of this is hidden away. I see this a lot. It's a really good development. We get the best of both worlds, with the couplings being there for the 95% of people who are quite happy with slimline tension locks. But for those who aren't, you don't have to carve out this mounting point that's hidden by the wheels. These wagons come as standard with the metal wheels, and also this is becoming the new normal for a Rapido wagons. You could just see in there we've got brass bearing cups, and that makes these exceptionally smooth runners. We've got a nice dished shape to the front of these 3-hole wheels, and on the back as well we've got a representation of the correct profile of these, and that's something that quite often you see manufacturers just have flat backs to their wheels, but these are accurate. The brake rigging lines up with the flanges, and that's quite important on a wagon as long as this, with quite an open underframe. That is fairly obvious if those weren't lining up, and that was one of the drawbacks of the old Hornby 00 tooling, that the brake blocks were miles away from the wheels, and obviously so. Underneath we've got this quite utilitarian chassis. It's almost like a box girder type chassis, and then we've got the brake rigging and what I can only guess this pipe zigzagging through may well be the steam heat pipe. Then we've got the handbrake actuation mechanism. Just looking there, and I would say to my untrained eyes that looks to be absolutely perfect. We've got all of the brake gear factory fitted. This we're seeing more and more. There doesn't actually appear to be anything. I'm just going to retrieve the box and have a look. And actually, no, I take that back. We do have what I can guess are steam. No, these will be the vacuum brake standards. The steam heat is there on the wagon itself. And then we've got some destination boards too, just in that extra detail pack. And these would have been, I guess, chalkboards for being able to chalk the destination on. Now, I've got muck from something. The roofs themselves, we've got the grey finish with the characteristic ribs across there. That again does seem to match up with photographs that I've been looking at. The livery application is crisp and clean. That blue circle is quite nice. We've got no bleed through the white underneath, and the Insulfrish 12-ton E87836 is perfectly legible. I do like this mechanism. That's all separately fitted, and you can see there's air underneath there. It feels very robust. I don't know whether that's metal or whether that is particularly resilient plastic, but that door opening mechanism is particularly well done. Looking to the chassis, we've got the works plate on there and all the additional printing as well. There's quite a lot going on, and then we've got the I think these are Timken roller bearing covers, very characteristic, the yellow with the red stripe. Probably more familiar with those from locomotives like Class 40s. I seem to recall having something similar to that. There is also a bit of paperwork here that comes with it. Gives you some information for vacuum pipes and the side and end boards. We've also got the brief prototype history there. After the livery was updated, not all wagons got updated, but a number were updated to the ice blue. And then as the fish traffic was lost to the roads, so a lot of these vans went on into parcels and newspaper traffic. Some went as barrier wagons, and all of these have been catered for in the list. There's a very big list of releases that Rapido are putting out, including different running numbers, but also different liveries. We've got barrier vans, departmental vans, parcels vans. Now, as a parcels van, these were coded initially SPV, I think that stood for Special Parcels Van, and then later on, when TOPS kicks in, they got NRV, was its TOPS 3-letter code. Subsequently, as they got cascaded into the engineers' fleet, they would tend to keep their previous livery. In this case, it looks to be in parcels van livery with this rail blue, which does give some really nice interest to yards and sidings. But it's been recoded with a black patch and then ZVV being stenciled over the top. Now, a lot of these would then get used as things like packing vans with breakdown trains and just other general engineers' use, and I guess stores vans and such like. Certainly the last recorded use I can find of these for newspaper or paper traffic, 1981. Now, this particular livery is one of my favourites. We've got a lot more going on with the overhead warning stripes. We've got that same door mechanism. I do like that. That is a particular high spot for me on these. And then we've got the BR double arrow, the TOPS code there, 12.0 tonne. Tear weight, we're into metric here, 9.7 tonnes or 9,700 kilograms. And then we've lost the E prefix and it's just 87905 with the ADW underneath. And then we've got, I can't actually read that on the viewfinder, but I'm sure that's things like body overhaul and such like. And you can see again, we've got much more sharp printed information on the ends. Again, we've got the sprung buffers, and looking underneath, we've still got what I can only guess is the steam heat pipe going through. Now, I don't know whether this is truly accurate, whether this was just left on the vans or whether it should be removed. We've also got a lamp iron too. By this point, brake vans weren't necessary for fully fitted freight trains, so they have lamp irons for putting the tail lamp on, although actually that original version has it as well. All in all, I have to say, really quite impressed with these. There's not a lot I can fault, and certainly the presentation that we've got here of the wagons is far better than any of the previous versions of Blue Spot fish vans that we've seen. I still can't find definitively whether the older Hornby 00 tooling is specifically diagram 1800 or 1801, although Rapido do say in their literature that this is the first time that the 801s have been offered ready to run. RRP for these vans is £34.95, but we do have an affiliate link down below that takes you to TMC, the model centre, where a substantial discount is available on orders, and we believe that to be one of the best priced outlets for these models. Check them out there. All the different livery versions that are available, including these two that you've seen today. Today's video is sponsored by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for finding all of the models featured today at the best possible price at the link in the description. TMC also offers custom weathering and renumbering to any model, be it brand new or pre-owned. Check out their full pre-owned listings too, where you can be assured of quality as every item is screened and graded by professional staff. TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for all aspects of modelling. The next two wagons are Rapido's Caledonian Railway Diagram 67 vans. Now, the railways of Scotland very underrepresented in ready-to-run models, and this is the first time a Caledonian Railway van has appeared ready to run. Now, some of the pre-grouping companies didn't have a good survival rate of their vans, but the Caledonian Railway, these actually survived for a very long time, and there's a number in preservation, and partly this seems to be because they were sold on for further use, and it was a very successful design. The first of these appeared in 1903, with subsequent batches being built all the way up to after the First World War. Now, the two examples that Rapido have sent are these two. There are 22 different versions in this initial batch. So we've got catalogue number 976010, and this is in the LMS Post 36 livery as number 309824. And then we've also got a Royal Naval Armaments Depot, which is what the RNAD, I believe, stands for. And this is the 10-ton van as number 40 in this RNAD livery, catalogue number 976019. These do also feature the brass bearing cups that we saw on the fish vans. It's a really great development, I have to say. It really does cut down not just on the wear and tear when wagons are running for long periods of time, but also reduces the drag, means that you can pull more wagons easily with your locomotives, and if you've got a smaller locomotive with not quite so good grip, it does mean you can still pull a reasonable sized train. Now, these do come with a little leaflet giving you some information on vacuum and air hoses. Some Diagram 67 vans were vacuum or air brake, something that's often forgotten, that a number of pre-grouping companies did actually use Westinghouse air brakes. Then vacuum braking became predominant, and then BR went right back the other way and adopted air brakes as standard. Now, we've got a little bit of information here about the prototypes. It says here that by 1918, over 1,300 examples of the vans had been constructed. A number of these went on to other use, including the NCB had a number as tool vans, the Port of London Authority, the RNAD, all mining branch, I think that's part of the NCB as well. But also Cadbury's is another livery that they're offering, and it's through these means that a number of these have gained places at preserved railways. Now, there are some differences between these two, so I'm going to delve into the LMS one first. We've got a grey finished roof, and then this post-1936 LMS sort of chocolate brown livery, and I'm probably more used to a kind of a LMS grey, but I guess that this denotes the vacuum fitted vans. So you can see we've got vacuum brakes under there, and what I'm quite impressed with is you can see the mechanism whereby we've got springs for the drawbars. Now, normally these would be found behind the headstocks, but there's a very interesting design with the springs right there in the centre. And I'm not sure quite what advantage that might give, except it's not going to interfere with some of this diagonal cross bracing. But it's a very substantial underframe here with a lot of detail going on. All of the brake rigging is factory fitted. We've got these clasp brakes, which does mean that these would probably have given quite a generous braking force, and it's probably one of the reasons that these vans survived so well, that they were vacuum fitted or air fitted, and were fitted with quite an advanced braking system for what you would have expected from wagons, freight wagons of that day. We've got these 4-hole disc wheels, which have a fairly flush face and a flush back as well, which means that there's actually a lot of weight. I'm just looking there. Somehow, are they solid metal? That means there's a lot of weight low down with these wheels, because there's no huge lip either front or back. They're actually quite heavy pieces of metal. We've got them into brass bearing cups in the W-irons. The W-irons themselves appear to be metal. They're very robust. And then we've got all of that brake rigging with this characteristically quite short handbrake lever in the centre rather than at the ends. Again, that's duplicated on the other side. And then we've got this centre sliding door with its very distinctive X cross bracing on the outside of the planking. You can see there that there's a lot of separately fitted parts. So, for example, that handrail looks to be metal, and then we've got representation of all of the bracing in the corners. There is a little bit of a humping of the paint. I can just see that the paint, it almost flows and groups into the corners. That's something which I've seen a lot from a lot of different manufacturers. It's not excessive, but it is there. I really do like as well, I'm guessing that that's a separately applied metal piece that is quite thin, and I can see an air gap just underneath there. So the door runners are really well done. That is a particular favourite from what I'm seeing on these. The underframes look to be wooden, and we've got a lot of the strapping and such like. We've got printed on there the LMS Works plate. They're not sprung buffers, but to be honest, it's not really a deal breaker for me. We've got turned metal heads, the correct pattern of the spindles in there, and then on the ends we've got separately fitted ventilators. These would have been metal, just angled down, and there's a lot of extra detail with these vertical ribs, plus I'm not quite sure what that is, some kind of a slide, open or shut. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. Couplings are slimline tension locks in NEM pockets. Again, mounting point is hidden between the wheels so as to be quite unobtrusive. And all in all, this does look to be a really nice, highly detailed wagon. Now we've got a RRP of $34.95 on these for all the different versions, and again we've got an affiliate link down below for you to help you find all the different versions, including the ones that you've seen in this video. Now the RNAD one does have some differences. First up, probably the most obvious, is the lack of vacuum brakes. So you can see we've got the same underframe, but a much more Spartan, more streamlined affair on the underframe there. There isn't any of those brake clasps and the clasp shoes around the wheels. Instead, we've got a much simpler handbrake with a much more conventional lengthed handbrake lever that's fitted. We've got the twin spoke wheels on here. Again, very quite thick spokes. There's a lot of metal in there. We've got the brass bearing cups. And then we've got just a handbrake lever on the other side. There's no brake shoes pressing on these wheels. And on this side, we've just got the simple pair of brake shoes. In terms of other detail, I'm just going to look on the end. We've still got the end ventilators. That all looks the same. Same pattern of buffers. Everything else looks to be the same. I really do love the runners on these doors or the cross bracing. Now, this grey colour seems to suffer much less of the kind of humping of the paint up against the edges. It's not really a big deal, but this grey seems to be a much better colour paint pigment for that. It's not doing it. We've got some quite crisp writing here for internal use only. Nothing on here really particularly says RNAD, so you could imagine this also finding use on a great many models as just an internal user, either at a factory unit, a customer, or even in a TMD. So there's a lot of potential uses for a livery such as this. The roof is a slightly different grey. It's not quite as apparent, but it does look to be the same shade of grey as we've got on the LMS version. All in all, I have to say, really, really great model. The more you look at these, the more there is to see. I particularly like the underframe with those central springs. It's that kind of attention to detail which really does bode well. The final two wagons from this sextuplet that Rapido Trains has sent over are a variant of their 1907 Railway Clearinghouse designed private owner wagons. Now, these are different from the previous batch that they did. You might remember one of the Monday Club wagons was of that variety with the end tipping door. These don't have the end tipping door. They are instead versions that a number of companies prefer to just have the side doors. These were actually also built in numbers for a number of pre-grouping railway companies and then passed on into the Big Four and even up into BR ownership. A number of versions as well went on to further use with private owners. So again, a very versatile wagon. Now, there's 29 different versions that Rapido are offering, catering for everything from pre-grouping right through to BR and beyond. The two particular versions that they've sent for us to take a good close look at are catalogue number 967424, and this is the 7-plank open in the livery of Gittings and Sons, number 6. And then we've also got the Great Northern Railway / LNER 1907 version, catalogue number 967413, and this is the early LNER version as number 454941. A number of these were built for pre-grouping companies, but not in huge numbers, and then the Great War, later known as the First World War, broke out, and the War Department requisitioned a lot of wagons from a lot of different companies to aid the war effort, with a lot being sent overseas to the continent, where wear and tear and also enemy action resulted in the destruction of a lot of them. So at the end of the war, it was the case that the War Department had also been placing massive orders for this style of wagons, and a lot of them were then sent back to the companies that wagons had been requisitioned from to replace those destroyed during the war. Subsequently, building programs meant that large numbers were also bought by various concerns, and they could be seen far and wide. Rapido have also tooled up for 4 special what-if liveries to commemorate 4 different engineers for the railways too. Then we've also got a number of different versions to cater for other real liveries that these would have carried. They're being offered in South Eastern and Chatham Railway, both early and late livery and loco coal. Southern Railway livery, suitable for pre and post 1936, London, Brighton and South Coast Railway versions, and also Great Northern Railway versions, which is what this particular example is drawn from. First up, I'm quite impressed. The thickness of the sides on these wagons is much more prototypical than we've seen in the past from various wagons, but it doesn't seem to compromise its strength. There's very good choice of materials, and what I do really like is we've got the representation of the internal planking and also the doors, something which often used to be completely omitted, and it really does make these a particularly fine model indeed. The livery application on the outside really is quite crisp. This grey colour really does suit the wagon well, and the white printing, there's no bleed through, it does look like we've got good coverage. So we've got the NE, the loco, and then we've got the 12 tons, the running number, and there's additional printing across the sole bar, including its LNER plate there. And then also we've got a plate here, loco coal only, empty to Doncaster. Of course, the railway companies were huge users of coal, probably the single biggest customer for a lot of the collieries in the UK, so it stood to reason that they had dedicated fleets of wagons such as these to provide the coal needed to keep the steam locomotives working. Looking underneath, we've got a different mechanism for holding the couplings in place. We've got the NEM pockets and the slimline tension locks, but these are fitted to a pivoting bracket. There's some screws hidden down underneath the wheels, and then we've got these tails which actually do double up as a representation of what would have been the drawbar equipment. Now, this does give them quite a large swing. I'm just sort of messing about with these. They don't seem to be too fragile, certainly not had any issues as of yet with these. And then looking, we've got the brake rigging. These seem to be in almost like a V shape. Now, I can only assume that this is a compromise because this is a double O gauge wagon. So for anybody who converts their wagons to EM or P4, then I suspect it's possible to just move these out and keep them lining up with the treads, but as a compromise to get them mounted up there and flush with the treads, it does induce this slightly noticeable sort of angles on the brake rigging there. The rest of the brake rigging is quite slender. We've got, it feels like metal parts in here. It is very robust. This particular wagon is fitted with the split spoke wheels, very free running. We've got the brass bearing cups in there as well. And again, it's a really detailed underfloor. I suppose, when asking why do this, because most people are never going to see that, because they can. And then the internal colour as well. This is something that's been a great bugbear of mine, having just the wrong looking colour on the inside of wagons. This would tend to be unpainted, but unpainted wood weathers and bleaches very quickly, and this does seem to be a reasonable representation of that internal colour. The riveting detail on the corner brackets and the stanchions really is well done, and we've got a metal coupling drawbar hook in there as well, which is quite robust, and I believe that could be used for 3-link couplings with the greatest of ease. Looking to this other version, this is billed as being X Great Northern. It's not clear how much variety there would have been between different wagon builders. I'm just looking there, the strapping on that is pretty much the same as this northeastern LNER liveried ones, but the livery application on this really is nice and crisp. I really do like all this sole bar printing. We've got a lot of information on there, and it does look to be really quite crisp and clear, even though I can't actually read it with the camera viewfinder, and you're seeing it on your screen many times bigger than the wagon actually is. We've got the same turn metal buffer heads, again the metal drawbar hook. It's really crisp on the detail on these wagons, and the printing with the black drop shadow really does work well. Barton Station, Gittings and Sons. Number 6, Hereford, and it is quite an exquisite livery application. Again, we've got the full detailed interior, and this is definitely a great addition to the 1907 range of private owner wagons, making up for the fact that all the previous versions were end tipping. We've now got, as you can see, the normal ended wagons with just the side tipping doors. We've got the same wheels, except these have been fitted with the white walls. I was always led to believe that this was to do with being able to see cracks developing, not because you'd see the cracks, but because you'd see the lines of rust more than anything else. But I can't find any source to either confirm or deny that. When it comes to running on the layout, all of these wagons performed really well. They're really smooth running, and that means very limited resistance on any locomotive that you have pulling them. The upsum of this is that you can use some of your smaller locomotives with confidence, and they took in all the twists and turns of Weir Yard with no issues whatsoever, getting down to radius 1 curves. They dealt with gradients, the changes of gradients, and even the point work with no issues whatsoever. I paid particular close scrutiny to the Blue Spot fish fans with their long wheelbases. I did wonder whether they might be prone to rocking over some of the poorly laid points, but actually I had no issues whatsoever, and all in all I was pretty pleased with their performance. These new versions of the 1907 Railway Clearinghouse designed open wagons provide welcome variety to the ready-to-run fleet of wagons available. The livery applications are equally as good as we saw on the original releases, and I was particularly impressed with that Gittings and Sons livery, with some of the minute detail on the sole bar of the wagon. The colour choices really are good, and the Northeastern Loco Coal wagon too had a really good rendition of that Northeastern grey that really did stand out. Of particular note are the interiors of these wagons, which include accurate planking detail, the insides of the doors and strapping and such like, which is something which can often be sadly lacking from other open wagons that we've seen. The choice of brown colour too looks right, and that's really important, and I give both of these wagons an absolute thumbs up. They are great releases from Rapido that will plug a, albeit minor, gap in the ready-to-run range and will perfectly complement the other wagons that they have available. It's also fair to say that some of the pre-grouping versions too are going to be exceptionally welcome. This gives a real boost to those of us who model the pre-grouping scene. The Caledonian Railway Diagram 67 vans really are superbly done. There's a lot of fine detail on these, and highlights for me included that chassis underneath. Now, I know it's not to everybody's taste, the fact that you're just not going to see that, but I really did like that attention to detail with the centre springs for the drawbar mechanism. The things that you will see, though, are things like that really quite fine door runner mechanism, and that looked absolutely superb. With their cross bracings on the side, these really are a standout wagon, and again, a welcome addition to the ready-to-run scene. They provide a great deal of variety to your freight trains, to your freight yards, as well as being a welcome boon to Scottish modelers who up until now have been quite poorly catered for. There's a wealth of detail differences too, with the R&AD version featuring basic brakes, whilst the LMS X Caledonian Railway one has some really quite extensive braking systems underneath, which are a joy to look at. All in all, I thought that these are great solid releases, and I look forward to further releases from Rapido in the years to come. With regards to the Blue Spot fish fans, these are some of my favourites of what Rapido have produced in this batch of wagons. They're a slightly different diagram to the ones that we've had from Hornby, Daypole, Hornby 00 and Wren, and that means that we've got that extra little bit of variety for our wagon fleets. And it ticks off yet another type of wagon that BR had back in the day. That means that they will look equally at home with anything that you have to run with them. They were very long lasting, from the Blue Spot with the white livery that you see to the left, right through to departmental liveries not unlike the one you have on the right. They found a home firstly on fish traffic, but then with newspapers, parcels, and finally with barrier work and departmental uses. It's ensured that a number of these have survived through to further careers on preserved railways, and they will definitely be a welcome addition to a great many modelers' fleets. I really do like the detail on these. They're a really sharp, crisp moulding, and the door mechanism particularly is a work of art. The decoration too is pretty much perfect, and I do love the shade of rail blue on the departmental version. This is my particular favourite of all the versions that are listed that Rapido are doing. These two definitely get the thumbs up seal of approval, and I really do look forward to future releases. So there you have the Rapido Wagon Roundup, the latest 3 different releases from Rapido Trains UK. Now, I'm really quite impressed with some of these. There's some really great detail going on, and particularly with the Blue Spot Fish van and that Caledonian Railway van. I was really impressed by some of the really fine detail, in some cases completely prototypically accurate, but in places that you just wouldn't normally see unless you flipped these wagons over. I like the fact that Rapido is exploring all of those possibilities with pre-grouping rolling stock, which for so many years has been a massively neglected area in the ready-to-run hobby. There's some quite eye-catching wagons out there, and it must be remembered that a lot of these lasted a very long time, through the Big Four and on to British railways. And some of them even lasted to the 1970s, or in a very few cases, 1980s as departmental wagons. They truly were incredibly long survivors, and that brings with it a whole host of interesting livery variations. So Rapido have to be applauded for exploring this wide range of prototypes that has largely remained untapped until now. But I'd love to hear from you what you thought about these wagons. Leave a comment down below, it's always great to hear from you. And I want to know if there's something perhaps that you've spotted that you think that I missed, or maybe you've got recollections of the prototypes when they were working on the railways. It's always great to hear from you and get that historical frame of reference for these wagons that we get in model form on our layouts. Don't forget as well that we've got some affiliate links taking you to TMC, the Model Centre, where you can find all the different versions of all of the wagons featured today at what we believe to be the best possible prices. We've also got a link to Patreon where you can help support the channel, keep making the videos that you want to see. And don't forget your Monday Club badge and your Monday Club wagon. The wagons are a great addition to your model layout. We've got them in O gauge and 00. And of course, really importantly, the Monday Club badge is a great way of showing your love of the channel, whilst at the same time benefiting from all those great in-person shopping discounts that you can use over and over again. We've still got some available at the link in the description, so check them out today and start saving by supporting the retailers that support your hobby. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Tramfabriek, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model 00 gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
Today's video is sponsored by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for finding all of the models featured today at the best possible price at the link in the description. TMC also offers custom weathering and renumbering to any model, be it brand new or pre-owned. Check out their full pre-owned listings too, where you can be assured of quality as every item is screened and graded by professional staff. TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for all aspects of modelling. I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.